Welcome back to the national special election coverage from Quebec, a perfect place to watch, especially at this point in the campaign. Now, in the past, savvy, on-the-ground observers have picked up on trends here that upend conventional wisdom and define the final days of the race. So, who better to bring in than Emilie Nicolas, columnist with Le Devoir, in person? What a novel concept that is in a pandemic. Right? So start by just kind of bringing us up to speed on the state of play in this province in particular, because it looks meaningfully different than at the outset of the campaign.
Yes, so the Liberals are still in the lead with roughly 1/3 of the voting intentions. The Bloc is second with 1/4 of the voting intention. Then the Conservatives with 1/5, so 20% of voting intentions, and then the NDP behind with 20%. The Liberals and the Bloc are a little bit down, as you were saying, since the beginning of the campaign, but they're still in the lead. The Conservatives have been going up, but they're still not quite in that pay zone. So they might be gaining seats in the Quebec City region and in Trois-Rivières, as you have been exploring earlier, but they're not as at the level of, in terms of number of seats where the Bloc and the Liberals are, which is why nationally you're saying the Liberals behind the Conservatives in terms of voting intention, but still ahead in terms of potential number of seats.
You know, it's really interesting to think about the interplay between the parties, particularly in a place like Quebec, where you have the Bloc Québécois as that other factor. But I'm also thinking of the issues at play, right? I mean, how are they different in Quebec? I mean, if you had to pick one or two key ones in this province, how Quebecers look at them differently than, say, the rest of Canada?
Well, one of the key issues that was brought up actually in the first French language debate that was had last week is the issue of childcare. It's something that matters nationally, but at the same time here, we already have a childcare national system. So people are worried about, for example, a lot of mothers who are looking to go back into the workforce, but are still waiting for a spot in those childcare. So as a result of that, the money is more about creating more spots, and it's also about making sure that there would be the agreement between the Justin Trudeau and François Legault would be respected, whoever comes in power next. And so that's something that got actually Adrienne a little bit of heat in the last week's debate in terms of whether or not he would keep the agreement that Justin Trudeau has struck with the Quebec Premier.
And even, I mean, on the environmental front, I mean, we heard Allison's reporting earlier, but this is an issue that plays very differently in Quebec than it would elsewhere.
Yes. So Quebec obviously is not the only province that cares about the environment. What might be different here is that sometimes there's a little bit of a nationalistic flavor in the way that we talk about the environment. And so, for example, the Bloc will say they care about the environment, but will also say that the Liberals cannot be trusted because it's Canadian, and Canada, Alberta is part of Canada, and there are pipelines over there. And so there is a lot of opposition to pipelines in Quebec like elsewhere in Canada. But here it's playing out in a way that can sometimes give some ammunition to the Bloc.
Last question for you. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, we have seen something of a leveling out, right, between the parties. The Conservatives doing better than one would have expected at the outset of the campaign. What would change things, if anything, at this point?
Yes, a lot of the times in 2019 with Andrew Chang, when the Conservatives are going up, then they are being attacked on some of their more social conservative values that don't play as well in Quebec. In the last days, what we've seen is Erin O'Toole being attacked on his position on gun control, and that is very much an issue that a lot of Quebecers care about, given the history with the Polytechnique and also the more recent history for the Quebec City mosque shooting as well. And so whether or not a position will try to paint Erin O'Toole as the person who likes gun, that remains to be seen. But that is one of the ways in which the race could change in the days ahead.
Interesting stuff. Emilie Nicolas, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Once again, in person. We have to do it again.
Yes.
Okay.